Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Hope you're having a good day. It was a very nice day here in Maine. It was sunny and it wasn't even cold out really. It was really nice, however, the forecast looks like we're probably going to get some rain or something coming up in the next couple of days, I guess. I don't know. But today I went down to BAM bookstore and I bought this George Orwell's 1984. It's a graphic novel, which means it's like a comic book. It's got pictures in it. Let's see, it's got stories, pictures of it. Yeah, I like graphic novels. Excuse me here. I like graphic novels. I got a whole bunch of them, of course, I don't really buy books that much. I mean, this is probably the first book I bought from BAM in maybe 2 or 3 years. I guess, I don't know. I'm very fussy about what kind of things I buy, but I thought this would be a good, good story to buy. I mean, I know the story already, but the fact that it's a graphic novel, makes it special, makes it unique, because they never made one, as far as I know, before this one. And it was $24 to have it. I mean, it's a hardcover, so any hardcover is going to be expensive. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I just thought, I wanted to see it and read it. I mean, they got like, I think there's 3 different versions of 1984, the films. Okay, on YouTube you can watch for free. And I recently watched the one that was made in the 50s for the first time, like a month or 2 ago. I found it on there. Somebody had just put it up there, and I said, you know what? I never saw this version, and it was pretty good version. I liked it. I mean, yeah, I liked the one from that came out in the 80s here. That was a good one. But each one really, even the very first one wasn't bad. It had Donald Pleasance in it, and he came back in the second movie of it. But oh yeah, and what the hell? I'm trying to think of his name. He was in Star Wars. Played Grand Moff Tarkin. He was also in the first movie version of 1984. He was playing the lead role in that. But yeah, it had good actors. All versions of those movies have good actors in it. So I would, if you can find it, just type in George Orwell's 1984 in the search engine on YouTube, and I think the movies will pop up there in a list of things. So yeah, I'd look it up. Now, the first part of this video, I'm gonna, if you didn't see the other video I put on Ordinary Talk list, the interview with former Commander Bobby R. Jones from the U.S. Navy. If you didn't watch that, which is about an hour long, okay, then you're probably going to want to skip the first part of this video, because I'm going to give feedback on that, because You know, I just, it would have been too long to try to copy and put that up here. You know, it would have been like 2.5, 3 megabytes, I mean, gigabytes rather, of trying to put that up on YouTube. It would have been all night trying to get it up there. So what I did is I just took and made you know, put the link on my Ordinary Talk, you know, list of episodes there, and you'll see it. It's right before this one. Watch that one, okay? I recommend you watch it. It's a very good interview. The guy really breaks things down to understand why, you know, it's wrong for Trump and Hegseth to be doing what they're doing to the military and the veterans, and why, you know, we need to, you know, cherish our history, because as it looks, it's like Trump and Hegseth want to erase anything in military history that does not pertain to just white men. Okay, I didn't realize this, but Colin Powell has been erased from the online historical military history database, or whatever the hell they call it. It's a website there for people that want to read military history. Apparently that's controlled by the government, and they totally wiped that out. Colin Powell, it's like you don't even exist. Okay, another thing they took out of there was the Tuskegee Airmen. All right, they took that out. The Navajo code talkers, gone. They took that out. The Japanese American soldiers, gone. Okay, they've gone through there and they edited a whole bunch of stuff out of there, and you know, and that pissed him off. Pisses me off. You know, because, you know, it's like, let me break it down into something, you know, people who haven't served in the military could probably understand best. Star Trek fans, okay? I know it's going to sound funny to some of you out there watching this. Star Trek fans love Star Trek, okay? They do. Imagine if somebody went out there and said, we're taking Voyager out of the whole timeline of Star Trek because, oh, it was a female captain that was commanding the ship. We don't like that, so it's gone. It never happened. How would you think the Star Trek fans would react to that? All right? This is how we people, the veterans, feel about what's being done here. These people, whether they were female, black, Japanese American, Native American, they were all in the military. We served together, all of us. All right, and it's like a community, like, you know, like the Star Trek fans consider themselves a community, and we respect everybody's contribution to the military. It should be remembered, because you know, as as Bobby Jones said, the American active duty people, you know, in the service are the most underpaid group of people in American society, because we don't work 9 to 5. When you're in the military, your job is 24/7, and you only get time off whenever they give it to you, you know, for holidays or whatever. But even when you're on the holidays, you know, if something happens, you're called back in, so you're never really off duty. Okay. And considering the responsibility they have to carry is extreme. You know, it's dangerous, it's life-threatening. I mean, look, people today in the civilian world, if they're working a job that, like mining, if they're a miner, hey, they're not going to do that job. They know it's dangerous. They know it's, you know, they're not going to do that job for peanuts. Okay? Any job where you're going to be using heavy equipment, where are big construction jobs where you're building a fucking 500 floor high rise, okay? Big fucking risks taken. People can die. You know, they want big money to do that job. Well, people in the service, you know, it's the same thing. We could be shot. We could be bombed. We could be wherever we go. But we don't get paid that much to do that, okay? We really don't. And it's not like all of us go in there looking for the money, because at the same time, the military gives us housing, all right? Yeah, we still have to buy certain things, you know, like uniforms and stuff like that. We have to pay that ourselves. I mean, it used to be the military would just issue that to you, but now that doesn't happen. food and stuff like that, again, it's up to you to feed yourselves. But, you know, the military does provide some things, okay, that are cost-free. And they take care of the people, you know, in the hospital, military on base and stuff like that. So there are things. But like I said, we're being asked to do a major undertaking, which is to protect our country. Okay? We're not just building a high-rise or mining for coal or diamonds or whatever, you know. We're trying to protect an entire nation, some 350 million Americans. Okay? And we're being asked to operate some big fucking machinery here. From aircraft carriers to tanks to bombers and submarines. I mean, these aren't just like, you know, cranes or plows or something, or school buses, okay? We're talking about some fucking big-ass shit, okay? And we're also in charge of nuclear missiles. Okay? Think about that. The responsibility. There ain't no fucking CEO in this country that can have that equal responsibility there. We can destroy a world. Okay? And when we are given that responsibility, depending on what the job is, okay? Not everybody does the same thing, I'm just saying that, you know, in the military, these are the various things we do in this service, okay? And so, if we're going to equate, you know, pay to risk, you know, I think if you check it up online, what servicemen are paid, you're going to find it kind of laughable, because it's like, well, Jesus, you know. But, you know, I understand at the same time, we don't have unlimited funds, okay? I understand that. We can only pay so much, I guess, because we're not talking about, people everybody doing the same job, okay? Like I said, it's not the same. I imagine if you're doing work, in some of these other things, maybe the pay is different, okay? I can't speak for all areas of the military, but as a general thing, yeah, a lot of these people are really not getting the pay that they deserve, I suppose you could say, comparable to the work that they're doing, which is critical in most parts of the military. So, and of course, it's always based on rank too. I mean, the more rank you get, the more money you get. But still, even in the officer ranks, I mean, you're, unless you're a goddamn general, I mean, you're, but, it's sad in a way. But at the same time, like Jones says, we're trained to absorb a lot of shit. Okay, when we get in the service, we're trained to take a lot of crap, so we don't bitch, about the pay and stuff like that. We get what we get, and we accept it, and we just do our jobs, because for a lot of us, it's a stepping point to getting an elevated status back in the civilian world when we get out of it, okay? So we always keep in mind this is temporary. It's temporary. You never really hear people say, oh, I'm going to stay in here for 20 years. Sometimes they don't even know they're going to stay in 20, depending on what's happening in their, what's happening on the outside world where they're from. They may change their mind and say, I'm putting in 20, because there's nothing I can, there's no place to go for me. The military is my only place. So some people end up staying in the service for no other option, But for a lot of people, the military is just a temporary thing so they can get out of the poverty they were living in when they joined the service, and they can get into a better future, a better job, because they got some training in the service, and now we can do this, because, experience counts for a lot in the outside world. If you're, if you want to drive a truck and they find out you drove trucks for the military, hey, that's a good hire right there. Somebody that has all that experience already. You don't have to worry about training them. They already got it, okay? So it always looks good on a resume that you served, X amount of years in the service, and and you try to take that experience and bring it into the civilian world, okay? So yeah. But like I said, and it's just the way that you know, our government today, okay, I'm not saying government always, but government today, because it's Trump's, it's like military doesn't matter, the people who serve in it don't matter, the veterans don't matter. I mean, you had Trump standing in France, you know, over the grave sites, right? You know, Normandy, all that stuff. Okay, and he's like, you know, what did they get out of it? You know, that comes from a guy who never served, and he purposely denied ever getting in there. I mean, ever trying to serve, because I got bone spurs. You know what? I got bone spurs in my fucking heel, and I still went in the damn service. Okay, didn't bother me in the least. But he used that as an excuse not to go in. Okay, during Vietnam, and and Jones was right. Well, he said that, you know, Trump's family, nobody in it has served in the military of any kind. They felt good taking, but never giving. You know, and in his family, his grandfather was one of the Tuskegee Airmen. His whole family has given back to the country in service in the military. And he's watching what Trump is doing with rage, because, you know, that's cutting his grandfather out of the history that he contributed to. That's not fair. That's you know, that's a dishonorable thing to do to a man who put his life on the line. And here's another thing linked to that he mentioned, was that of all those planes that were used in World War II that were ever built, they had prototypes, right, of every plane that was made. Guess who fucking tested those pilots? I mean, guess who tested those planes, the prototypes? Women. Because that was all that was left. All the men were out fighting. All that was left here were women. And so women pilots, and they were called WASP, Women's Air Force Service Pilots, they were tasked to try out the planes before they were, you know, sent, okay, to make sure that the things worked, the prototypes. They said over 30 women were killed in those training, not training, but in those testing process of those planes, like the B-52 and all that other, or, you know, the bombers and stuff, and the fighters. Okay, they lost a lot of female pilots, and a lot of the planes that they tested out ended up being the planes that the Tuskegee Airmen used. Okay. Well, WASP doesn't exist on that website, you know, that talks about military history. That was removed because it's women. You know, when they said on the news about, you know, Trump was going to go through the history and stuff like that, you know, they really didn't tell people exactly, specifically, what was being taken out. Because I think if people actually looked and saw what was removed out of the history of the military and stuff like that, so that the general public won't see it, it would infuriate the veterans, okay, who would look at that and say, you know, where the hell is this? You know, it's gone. And it's all because they can't, it doesn't fit Trump and Hegseth narrative about American history only being created because it was of white people. Everybody else was just, you know, a sideshow. Okay, you couldn't tell that lie if you had all this evidence to prove that what they're saying is a lie. So they have to erase. They got to take things out, you know, to make it look like black people didn't fight, women weren't involved. Okay, you know, it was all white people that accomplished everything. Okay. And what Jones is saying is that's bullshit. You wouldn't have a United States today if you took all these people out, okay? Because you're so against this DEI thing and all that, and you're scared to death about diversity that you don't want to acknowledge that because the United States is supposed to be about diversity, you don't want it to be like that. You want it to be about white Christian males only, okay? And so diversity has to be taken out of the equation, which means anything there that talks in the history about black people accomplishing this or that, or women doing this or that, out. Okay? Now, that only happens when people like you and I and everybody else in the country allow that to happen. Okay? If we don't stand up and say baloney to this shit and resist, this goes and it stays. Okay? It just stays. And I feel bad for people who really stay quiet about this and don't do anything. But the veterans had a march on Washington here not too long ago. Big one. It was spontaneous. In fact, there was no really any planning. It just happened, sort of. And a lot of people were there. So veterans are getting pissed. Okay? And believe it or not, some of these veterans were actually Trump supporters. Okay? Remember, there were some veterans on January 6th that were out there, you know, going after the Capitol. Well, now we got veterans out there, again, getting pissed at Trump for doing shit like this, okay, for trying to rewrite history, the military history, okay. It's not going to work, okay, and the voices of the veterans are going to continue to rise until Trump undoes this, okay. And you know, one thing here that Commander Jones here had said was that when people join the military, they're put in a boot camp, okay, everybody knows that, boot camp. And we don't say, okay, we don't segregate the people, okay? We throw them all in there together in the same thing. And what they're trained to do is to work together for a common goal. That's what we're trained to do, or that's what, you know, the people in the service are trained to do. We don't focus on each other's differences. We work on a common goal. And because I brought up, you know, the Star Trek fans, doesn't that also sound like the way Roddenberry presented Star Trek to us? Is that people, all different kinds of people working together for a common goal. After a while, you don't see the differences anymore. Okay? You don't. And I know I've made that point before in another video about how, you know, a shared trauma together can heal a lot of things. You know, it just gets rid of a lot of prejudices and things like that. When, you know, you got gay people, trans people, black people, you know, anything. If you're all working together for a common goal, and it's a real, you know, or you're in a battle situation, you know what? You're not going to give a shit about the person next to you, what's between their legs, or what the, you know, they're covering your ass, you're covering that person's ass, okay? And you're depending on each other to survive. That breaks down all fucking barriers right there. And people that are out there bitching about, oh, he's black, these are people that never had to face those things. They never had to depend on somebody else to cover, you know, to protect them, okay? So they don't have any fucking understanding of why it is that, you know, the rest of us laugh at people that think that, oh, you're black, you know, it's make fun of people that look at skin tone and, you know, accents and stuff as a reason not to like somebody. We think that's childish, you know, because we grew out of that by learning how to work with people that they're making fun of and finding out, hey, we all got things in common, you know. Look past those fucking things that bug you so goddamn much, and maybe you'll be a happier person. But these people won't do it because they're stuck in that childlike mind where they grew up in that home of theirs where they were taught to hate, and hate all over again. Okay, that's what you know, thing about that. And you know, I like I said, you should watch that interview, because this guy, you know, he really knows what he's talking about, and he breaks things down so you can understand it. He's not a person that's going to try to cloud you with a lot of intellectual things. He really breaks it down so anybody can understand where he's coming from, okay? He don't mince words. And I think it's worth, if you haven't seen it, go back down. It's right in the list of videos that I have, and just click on it and watch it. It's like an hour, and, you know, 2 minutes long or something like that. But it's pretty good. Tells you a lot of interesting things, and it really enlightens us on what's happened to the military since Trump has taken the office. So it's really sad in a way too. All right, so let's go to commercial break, and we'll come back with another video.
I'm Alex Curtis, I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins, I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Howdy folks, Mangy Fedlocks here. You know, there's almost nothing that can lift your spirits better than a nice polka. So I wrote one for you. I'm going to play it through all the way, and then I'm going to add some lyrics to it. Hope you like it. I truly wish Trump's name was Frank instead of Donald J. That would be so much better in one specific way. Each time that I refer to him, I'd not lead folks astray, since I don't use his given name, but often tend to say F Trump, F Trump. Some think I have forgotten Donald's name. F Trump, F Trump. But nonetheless I say it all the same. If only Trump's name, I'm going to try that again. If only Donald's name was Franz instead of what he's got, that would be so much better by a lot. 'Cause folks would not be puzzled then and think I don't know squat when I repeat the phrase which some believe it's best I not. F Trump, F Trump. Some think I have forgotten Donald's name. F Trump, F Trump. But nonetheless I say it all the same. F Trump!
can't get hard, not even with the blue pills. Will the salt trick work for me? All right, pay attention. If you're over 35 and not as firm as you should be, or if you're popping the champagne a little too early, I highly recommend the salt trick. In just 20 seconds, you can prepare this drink, and your anaconda will stand tall for hours, almost immediately. This homemade salt tonic has been used for years by Brahmin bull breeders in India to help them stay firm and mate with up to 20 females at once. But a few years ago, this trick fell into the hands of the adult film industry, and since then, this little secret has been used by adult actors instead of the little blue pill. That's because it works in just minutes, flushing out flaccid toxins from your body that make your buddy shrink and fail when it matters most. It may sound crazy, but this drink is 6 times more powerful than any pill from the pharmacy, and because it's natural, it has no side effects. And if you haven't heard about it yet, it's the company behind the little blue pill, starting with P, that censors anyone who talks about this cheap, homemade solution. That way, they continue raking in billions every year from the suffering of millions of men just like you. But I'm putting an end to that right now. I'm releasing the short video that shows how to prepare and use the salt trick. Back then, this video was sold for $47, or they would have taken it down immediately. But so you can start the year off right. I'm leaving this video free for the next 3 hours. In the video, it shows step by step how to prepare this 20-second trick today and leave your wife with limp legs tonight. Just click the button that's appearing somewhere in this video to watch. If a page opens, it means the video is still available, and this might be your only chance to toss the little blue pill in the trash and learn how to make this homemade, safe recipe that's 6 times more powerful than the pharmacy pill. But I should warn you, this video contains some pretty hot scenes, and it also shows an African green tonic used by tribes in North Africa to grow their tool to the point of outgrowing all their underwear. Do not use if you're already too big or satisfied with your size, and also how to eliminate the flaccid toxins that are sabotaging your hardness and shrinking your little guy like a turtle. Watch with headphones on. As I mentioned, the video is uncensored and shows exactly how this trick works to make your buddy rock hard. So click the link below and watch while it's still available.
Don't look up. Elon Musk's rockets keep blowing up. Pieces falling out of the sky. Airports across Florida shut down. Planes are crashing. Near misses. Dangerous. What are Donald Trump and Elon Musk doing? Slashing the Federal Aviation Administration, the one government agency that protects you in the sky. It's crazy. Elon Musk doesn't care. He doesn't fly like the rest of us. For him, it's private planes, private airports. But there's another reason Elon Musk wants to gut the FAA. It's the agency that regulates his rockets that keep blowing up. The FAA has fined Musk's rocket company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, by the way, you're paying for those exploding rockets. Musk gets billions from taxpayers. He wants to build spaceships to take billionaires to Mars. Yeah, nuts. Elon Musk is out of control.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Smoke, what are you doing? Laying eggs? Huh? Look like a hen. Huh? All right. Okay, welcome back, everybody. All right. So this other video I have is a news item here about a Idaho lawmaker named Stephanie Nicholson, whose family was raided by ICE on January. Just a couple of days after Trump's ridiculous inauguration there. They accused her of hiring illegals in her businesses she's got there. I guess she's got a farm or something like that. And, you know, so anyway, let's go to that video here, and then we'll talk about that here on the other side.
Big target on her back the last several years. We've talked about this before, when Representative Mickelson was censured and then told she could no longer run as a Republican by her local legislative GOP committee. That leadership has since been replaced. But last week, we learned how big that target actually is. Daniel Walters of Investigate West dropped a story of how far-right Republican activists have tried to weaponize a federal agency against those who don't agree with the new administration's approach to immigration enforcement. Specifically, how a ranking member of the Ada County Republican Central Committee targeted Representative Mickelson with threats of raids by ICE. Well, that raid happened back in January. Mickelson, who owns several food production and seed potato companies in southeastern Idaho, says immigration enforcement isn't really her biggest concern about this. It's more about the culture of politics these days and how intimidation tactics like this could impact anyone's effect as a legislator.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
For many people,
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
The second inauguration of Donald Trump
Solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute.
Was a turning point.
I will faithfully execute.
For Idaho Representative Stephanie Mickelson,
they showed up at our business, days later.
That point came later that week.
He started targeting me on Tuesday, and they were there by Friday.
Representative Mickelson is referring to a January 21st social media post by Ada County GOP Vice Chairman Ryan Spoon, in which he asked the Deputy Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement if he could please send some illegal immigration raids to the businesses owned by Idaho State Representative Stephanie Mickelson. She's been bragging about how many illegals her businesses employ. Representative Mickelson says,
I was actually home that Friday.
It was an off day during the early legislative session when ICE showed up at one of her eastern Idaho farms.
And then when they couldn't get a hold of me, then they start texting 911, Mom, which means I have to call.
Not coincidence?
I don't think it was coincidence, but, could have been, but I doubt it.
Yeah, they keep pointing to something you said during last session, though.
So what it was is we were having a discussion, and it was a Texas force style bill, which was already tied up in the courts.
This right here is another key component to us protecting and defending the people of Idaho, and that is protecting the very borders of our state.
So on this particular case, and I feel like this has been happening a lot lately, is we target a certain ethnicity or a certain group, and we want to demonize them.
For debate on motion, Lane 32.
It was during the House debate on last session's immigration enforcement bill.
I think you need to remember that every food processor, probably in this state, from the large food processors to the small ones.
But I stood up and I said, I think we need to be really thoughtful before we're passing some of these bills, because I think they have unintended consequences.
So if you guys think that you haven't been touched by an illegal immigrant's hands in some way, through either your traveling or your food, you're kidding yourselves.
So because of that, then they claimed that I had admitted to something which I had never admitted to.
Which is likely what Spoon referenced on January 23rd of this year, calling Mickelson a, quote, plantation mistress, and said, we're going to take your farm slaves away. However, Spoon told Investigate West, quote, her own testimony drew attention to herself.
And the fallacy in all this, every employer out there has to follow the law. But the law is very narrow as far as what we can get, what we can ask, and what we can do. If we don't follow those laws, and if we were knowingly hiring undocumented workers or illegals, you can get a fine of up to $27,000 per employee.
For Representative Mickelson, her biggest worry isn't necessarily her family business.
Double check.
But the chilling effect this had on her ability to do her other job, like when a similar immigration bill came back this session. When this came around for you to stand up and speak your mind on a topic like this, did that change?
This year, I didn't stand up and talk about it.
Why not?
I felt like that I didn't need to make myself and my family and our businesses a bigger target than it needed to be. And so I simply stayed quiet on the issue.
So you've had to change the way you do things?
I did have to change the way I did things, and I had a lot of sleepless nights where I said to myself, if I can't be effective anymore, then maybe it is time, then maybe I need to not be here. I need to do something differently. Or my choice was, I'm gonna have to stand up and find my voice again. And so I finally decided that I'm going to do the best I can do while I'm here. I represent my community, I represent my constituents, I represent the people of Idaho. And if we lose good statesmen in this body, then where will we be?
Is this a bigger problem in this building or in this realm of politics where people feel like they can't say something because they'll get a target on their backs?
I think you're seeing more and more of that, especially in the last couple of years with the rise of social media and confrontational politics. You see this situation where people really think about whether or not they're ever going to make a public statement. Part of the problem with these extremist groups is they've come in, a lot of them have come in from another state, and we welcome out-of-staters to come in and move into Idaho, but to come in and then tell us that they know the Idaho way. The Idaho way is when we have a problem, we roll up our sleeves and we work together and we help our neighbors, or we have differences, but we sit at the table and hammer through what's the best solution for Idaho. But I think until some of us start standing up and saying this is enough, if you want to have a conversation, that's great. Let's not be an anarchist or an arsonist. Let's be an architect. Let's find a good future for Idaho.
Well, according to Investigate West's story, after that January raid of Mickelson Farms, one employee was arrested by ICE and sent to a detention center in Las Vegas. Both she and her family say they would never knowingly employ an undocumented worker, and they follow all federal and state laws to be in compliance. By the way, Mickelson did vote in favor of that immigration bill last session, despite her debate. And this ICE episode hasn't stopped her from speaking out last month against a bill requiring all employers in Idaho to use E-Verify, a federal program to prove workers are authorized to work here. Mostly over the cost of enforcing it. That's why she wanted to see it not go anywhere. Well, she told us, instead of getting tied up in all this national stuff colleagues seem to be using for campaign purposes lately, she'd rather focus on issues that matter to Idahoans. Less headline stuff like lower utility bills and water rights for future generations. As for Ryan Spoon, the vice chair of the Ada County GOP, who's made no secret of wanting to make Idaho unbearable for anyone who doesn't align with his politics, even though he only moved here 6 years ago. He refused to speak with us about the story. Actually, let me read for you what he did say. He said, the details of this story have already been reported by several reputable news or sources. You're welcome to republish that information from those stories in the hopes of someday becoming a reputable news outlet. Okay.
Yeah, well, you know, this really is, you know, very troubling. And then, and like this happened in, you know, back then, and then of course you hear she sees what Trump just did about rounding up people and sending them to El Salvador, okay, to these concentration camps down there. He's turned ICE into the brown shirts, you know, of old. Basically, they're his avenging angels, essentially. When he's mad about something or somebody, if he can have them removed, that he'll, hey, just send them in. They'll go pick them up, and then they're gone that night. You know, that kind of power should not be allowed to exist in this country, where you can just use ICE as your little army to go do things. Okay, and especially when you're going after a lawmaker, and you know, then you kind of understand why some of these people in these politicians and stuff are kind of afraid of Trump, because maybe they have businesses, or they're hiring people that are not necessarily illegal, but they probably are not yet American citizens. They might be here on a what do they call it, a visa or something like that, you know, something that's temporary. But, you know, if Trump gets a hair up his ass, all of a sudden somebody comes kicking in the door, and that person that you hired is gone. And, you know, so these people, you know, hey, you know, the rich people, I mean, a lot of the wealthy people hire people for temporary employment, you know, and then they go back. They're not too happy. They can't be happy with that, because, hey, who's doing all the yard work, you know, when, you know, nobody now. So now it's up to you to do it, right? I mean, they're not happy. Some of these people got acres and acres of fucking ground, and now they got nobody out there to fucking, to do the manual labor, like, you know, taking care of their ground, the grounds around their home and their property, or maids in the house, okay? Now they're all afraid they're going to lose these people, because Trump is going on a fucking spree here, you know, of trying to come up with 20 million people to deport, because that's the figure he come up with in his speech. I can't remember when it was, but it was like, not that long ago. But he was saying 20 million people in this country are illegal, and of course everybody said that's not true. At most, it's 11, if that. So it's like less than half of what he's saying. But out of that half, a very small percentage of them are criminals. But he thinks they're all criminals, and anyone in here in this country that's not American, they got to go. So 20 million people have got to go. So this shit's going to go on and on and on. I don't know for how long, but you can bet 20 million and it'll still be going on, okay? Because he's going to use this ICE here. He's going to use ICE to go after anybody, okay? Even if they're white, and it's not going to stop. I mean, till half the goddamn country is living in El Salvador. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, what the hell do you think they're going to think down there in that country there when they got so many fucking people there? They ain't got enough goddamn concentration camps to put them in. What are they going to do? They're going to start burning people like they did in Auschwitz? I mean, is that the next thing that's going to happen? They're going to be inundated, because that's what Hitler was looking at when they were sitting here saying, where are we going to put all these Jewish people? First it was, well, let's put them in camps, labor camps, and then when the labor camps got full, then he says, well, let's just burn them, okay, kill them or something like that, and they had piles of bodies they were setting on fire. Christ, they had so much goddamn smoke in the air, it was coming down, ashes all over people everywhere in the damn towns, okay? That's what's going to happen in El Salvador if you let Trump continue what he's doing. It's it's the Holocaust all over again, Jesus. People, you have to be aware of these things. I mean, you got to be aware of where we're headed here. If you're trying to avoid a problem, you don't cross a railroad track when the fucking things are ding, 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 ding. Don't play daredevil there and try and get through it. Jesus, be smart, be cautious, be prepared. You can always hope for the best, but always prepare for the worst. So, yeah, I mean, this lawmaker, obviously she's scared, but at the same time she realized, what good is it to be afraid? I mean, I'm not speaking out, but people need to know about it. They need to understand what this man's capable of, that he will use his power in an abusive fashion. No president would ever try to pull a stunt like that that I can think of. Maybe Nixon, but I don't know. But I'm just saying, typically there's certain unspoken lines in the sand that you don't cross when you're the president of the United States. Okay? There's a certain degree of ethics here. Trump doesn't bring anything like that into the office. There are no ethics. He has no ethics. He has no principles other than selfishness and making sure that he gets everything in the end and nobody else does, right? Hooray for me and to hell with you. Okay? Other than that, he's got no redeeming qualities. I remember they asked Robert De Niro if they made a movie about Trump, would he play the role of Trump? And he said, hell no. He says I'm just paraphrasing here, but he said any character that he ever played that was a villain, he only did it because he tried to find something about that character that was redeemable in some fashion, okay? And, I think about all the characters he played, and I'm thinking, you really thought that guy was... Okay, but no, he said he wouldn't play Trump because there's nothing about the man that could be redeemed. The man is a complete and total failure, and he's an evil son of a bitch. I mean, it's just, that's why he would never play that character, You can't make him sympathetic in any way. And it says a lot too about how other people look at him. If a guy like Robert De Niro can spot that, a lot of other people could too. I mean, I can't think of any actor who's ever said anything good about the guy. Even the Republican actors out there have kept pretty quiet about Trump. So he's not a guy that really rallies the right wing. In fact, it's only because of MAGA that he's got support. And MAGA really doesn't want to acknowledge itself as Republican any more than it wants to be acknowledged as a Democrat or any other damn party. They want to be their own little thing. Just like the Nazi Party was its own little thing amongst all the other parties they had over there. You know, they felt their ideals were different from everybody else's. And so MAGA feels that way too. And they don't, to them, I guess you could say that, you know, you have Republicans that, you know, that, you know, abortion is a bad thing. But then you might have people in MAGA who don't even see it that way. They just, you know, may not even think that it's bad. Certainly Trump wouldn't. If he could, if he got somebody pregnant, I'm sure if the lady said, "I'll have an abortion," he wouldn't say no. And neither would MAGA. If MAGA found out about it, they'd support him. So MAGA would not be so anti-abortion. If Trump ain't anti-abortion, then they won't be either. Because what he does, they do. Monkey see, monkey do. Okay, that's kind of how MAGA operates. They take their cues from whatever the hell comes out of that man's mouth. So they're not consistent. They're hypocritical. They're a cult. In other words, okay, that's what a cult does. They only believe in what they're told to believe, and that's it. If Trump tells them it's raining outside and it's a sunny day, then they will believe it's raining outside. If he tells them it's a sunny day and you look out the window and it's fucking snowing and it's cloudy and all that, they're gonna believe it's a sunny, nice day. Okay, that's what cults are like. You know, Scientology. I mean, read about the people in Scientology. That's what they do. You know, they believe the opposite of other people's truths and stuff. They don't, you know, to them, they're dead certain that what they believe in is actual fact. Okay, these people are so, well, it's like what somebody had said here, and I can't remember now where I got that from, but people have a need to belong to a group. There's a lot of lost souls out there in this country who feel like they're living their life aimlessly, and they have no direction, they have nowhere to go, nowhere to call home, as it were. They just feel like, you know, they're completely cut off from the world. And then they see this group of people who are coming together, who also feel the same way, and so they link up to that group and they make friends and stuff in that, and before you know it, this group, you know, has sort of a, you know, a sizable bunch of people, and they all have the same thoughts, and they all, you know what I'm saying, it starts to become a big kind of a family community kind of thing. And then, you know, you in every community thing you have going on, there's always one that's sort of designated as the leader or something like that, or the head of it. And what that person says easily becomes absorbed and accepted by the group at large. And then before you know it, you've got yourself a cult. You know, and especially if it's based in some kind of a hokey religion or something. Usually quick, but not always that. Some political things can be treated as a religion to some. All right. So when you start something like that, you know, it can be easily twisted into something negative, and that's what's happened here with MAGA. Is that what started as the teabagger movement of a bunch of people who were unhappy with the way government was, okay, and the things they were being fed by a lot of big mouths who were trying to give anger all the time, like Rush Limbaugh and stuff like that. Okay, these people were fed by these idiots. And that anger is what brought a lot of these people together. They're all angry and about the same things. And then they call themselves a Tea Party movement or something like that, okay? And when they didn't get their way, they come back stronger, more united, you know, and then they start in with another what do you call it, mission, if you want. They pick another guy, Donald Trump, as the person they're going to rally around, okay? And now their cause is to see him in the White House. And then they call themselves MAGA because Donald Trump says, "Make America Great Again," and that becomes their slogan, aka their fucking name. So you know, like I said, people who feel like they've got no place to go and no family, no nothing. Which, you know, it's like, you know, hey, you know, it makes sense. You know, a lot of people join groups like that. I mean, I was in a writers group for a while, okay, because we all had a thing about writing. I'm not saying we were a cult, but I'm just saying, you know, it's nice to talk to other people who share an interest, you know, and make you feel like you're important in a way because, hey, they want to see what you're doing. They want to read your stuff. Okay, it's nice to have that, you know, but I never joined a group because of hatred. Okay, like, oh, he hates what I hate, so let's you know, I'm gonna be his friend. You know, I never joined groups because of a shared hatred. I can't imagine what that must be like. You know, can you? I mean, have any of you out there ever joined a group because you all agreed to hate something together? I mean, it's like, what the hell kind of group is that? But they exist. They fucking exist. And, you know, and it's like, Christ, you know, I can't say that would be very healthy for my personality or for my emotional state of mind to always be on the fucking prowl, you know, to be angry. You know, if I was to join something like that, I mean, I think I would go fucking stark raving mad in a month's time because these people are just rage. And whenever they're out there talking to the public, in forums, or, you know, even when they're on the television and stuff, the things they say are themselves are just hateful. Okay, and you just say, I never spent any time hanging around with that dude. He's fucking nuts. Okay, you know, like I think like Bill O'Reilly would be one guy off the top of my head that I would never fucking want to be around. That guy, you know, I would plow him in the face the minute he opened his yap. He is a creator of rage, is what he is. You know, but I just, like I said, I can't see how people can stay as a group under that kind of a fucking, no, it's not, sorry, I'm not going to get into that. No. But for Stephanie Nicholson and her family having that happen, yeah, that must have been scary. Okay. And I think for me, I would be thinking like, well, how the fuck can I fight back on that? What would be, you know, that would be my focus. It's like, you know, yeah, you think you can come here with your fucking brown shirts and do this shit? You know, screw you. You just made an enemy today. You know, and I would go, you know, try to find a way to get back at that. And that's what she needs to do in order to find some resolution here. Because basically we can look at this as she was being raped. Okay, and if you don't fucking fight back over the rapist, okay, then you're always going to be in this state of limbo where you feel afraid of everything. And that's why she's trying to speak out. That's why they did this thing where she was talking to the press. She wants people to know this happened, just to let people know what this man is capable of. So now that you've done that, now it's time to take the next step by doing something against the man that did this. To let him know that, yes, you might be the president, but the president is not all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-powerful. Okay, we have a separation of powers here in this country. You know, the executive, legislative, judicial, all those branches, okay, for a reason. So one man doesn't have all the power, and you're trying to fucking take that, you know, take that reality away. No, if we don't stand up against that, if we don't stand up against this theft of power in this country by using executive orders, you know, like they're, you know, fucking decrees here from a king or something. If we don't fucking stop that and we just sit here and let this go and, you know, where's the end going to be? You know, where's the fucking resistance going to be? Because, you know, the founding fathers in their graves are saying, fight back. You have a right to revolt. You got a right to push back against a dictatorship. This is not America. This is not what we want to see happen. We started this thing on the idea that people have a voice, that, you know, the majority rules, okay, and that people don't abuse their power. We put things in the Constitution for that, okay? And if you're going to ignore it, then everything we did to create this country was for nothing. All those people that fought in these wars to protect your democracy from dictators from abroad, they died for nothing. All the ships that sunk at sea with all the crew aboard, they died and drowned for nothing. Okay? All the people that died on the beach in Normandy, they died for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, let's call it a day, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So, subscribe, comment, and share, and keep your ears open for health issues out there, because we still got, you know, things going around. And be a community, help each other out, be someone to lean on when things get bad. I'll talk to you all later, so take care. Bye-bye.